You're listening to Heroes in the Moment. What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today, what we've been waiting for a long time, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Come on now, let's get it.
Movie review. It's been a while since we've done a movie review. What was the last one? Dune? Dune?
Was it Dune?
Was it Dune?
Did we do one on Dune?
We did do one on Dune.
Before that, was it Aquaman?
Yeah. I think so.
Actually,
I think so.
Goodness.
So the last movie review is Dune Part 2.
A banger,
which is crazy to say.
One at the very bottom.
Which is just insane to say. But we're here finally, after all of this anticipation, to review and give you our honest opinions, both me and Nathan, of Deadpool and Wolverine.
6 long years. And our first Deadpool. Yeah, it's been 6, right?
Well, 6 since the first, since the second one, yeah.
Yeah, so 6 years since the last one.
And
our first Deadpool
review. Our first Deadpool review in general. Our first X-Men, I think, Fox Universe review as well.
Yeah.
Because we didn't do Dark Phoenix, because that was the last one. That was 2019. That was before our time. But we're excited. Me and Nathan have both seen the movie twice.
Yeah.
So we've had added perspective from the first watch versus the second watch. Typically, we love to watch movies twice before doing review just because it gives us the best benefit of having an equal review. Because the first time, it's kind of hard because you have biases and all this stuff. Second watch kind of eliminates a lot of those biases and puts more of a critique on the movie.
Yeah, you watch it as a fan always that first time.
Yes, exactly.
Because the theaters are, more pumping, right? It's opening weekend.
Absolutely.
Like, I think you watched on Thursday, right?
I did. I watched opening night.
I watched it Friday. You said, was your theater good?
It was really good. Really good.
Dude, mine was just like all old people.
Which was crazy.
Like, they were not going crazy
really
at all, man. Yeah. But they were going crazy.
All hats off to them for wanting to see Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, I guess.
And then we saw it again today together.
We did.
And drove right here, and now we're recording.
So we're fresh from watching it again for a second time, and fresh with a new perspective. So initial thoughts, I mean, based off, let's talk first watch first.
Yeah.
Based off first watch, we both, I think, had different thoughts.
Yeah.
You want to start?
I would say, first of all, I had a really good time.
Oh, absolutely.
And, like we'll say earlier, this is the first time in a long time. Marvel's kind of been, down recently. When you go into a movie, you don't kind of feel like a kid, right?
Yeah,
we're adults, we're in our 20s.
You feel like it's an agenda or like it just something has to be
pushed.
money. It's for money.
But this wasn't it. And as we'll talk about in that first scene, I'm just sitting there laughing with a bunch of the people just sitting there laughing. Right. I'm like, this feels good.
It does. I agree. And that was my initial thoughts watching it for the first time was, the entire movie, I think I had a smile on my face. The entire movie. Just because I had such a fun watch. This movie was not only a testament to just fun and comedy, but it was also a testament to those original Fox X-Men fans. Yeah. Which I want to say that the first X-Men movie, maybe the first superhero movie I've seen, maybe not. It's probably that or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But still, it's very refreshing to get this as a kind of a final entry into that universe. So that was really fun. It was just an amazing first watch, and I had fun from start to finish initially. As well. So let's talk about that second watch. Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, the second watch, like you said, normally you're coming into that second watch with with more of a critiques,
absolutely
mindset. Obviously coming out of the first one, I enjoyed it. But, there was, some glaring flaws, I think, in the movie. I think the second one just kind of made him a little bit bigger. Yeah. You know the jokes by now. You know what's going to happen. So you kind of zero in on kind of what you don't love, really.
Right.
Which will happen, if you do multiple watches. So I didn't love it as much the second time. Like I said, the jokes. Obviously, you love the action. You love seeing these cameos. But just with some of this stuff, you're like, all right, I recognize that this, it is what it is.
It has its issues.
Yeah.
Right. And I completely agree. The second watch, I still enjoyed it. Quite a lot. And I think the best way to describe this movie without kind of dipping into the pros and cons before we get to that set of the podcast, I think the best way to describe it is it's a lot of fun no matter how many times you watch it. I could watch it again and have a lot of fun watching it. It's a fun watch, but it does have some underlying problems. It's not a perfect movie by any means. It's not the, amazing movie that'll fix all that Marvel has issues with. Yeah. But it's a fun watch, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So I will say that.
I think I had really high expectations going in because I think that Michael, I kind of expected it. I'm like, we've had such a long time since the last one, since we're bringing in all these characters. I kind of expected like everything else to be top notch along with it.
Right. Right. And to be fair, for a lot of what it has, it's still like post Endgame, it's still up there.
Comparatively speaking,
post Endgame, it's up there as one of the best. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily as good as like
Black
No Way
Panther.
Home or Wakanda Forever, and you could debate Guardians 3, but Guardians 3 is probably objectively better.
Guardians 3,
But still, I would say those 4 films are the top 4.
Yeah.
And this one goes right into it in a pocket, and I feel like it fits nicely. And if this movie came out pre-Endgame, I think it would have fit nicely as well. So
I agree.
I'm not mad at this movie. But let's get into our typical movie review. What we do, we'll go into the characters, break down each one, including the main characters, and then there are cameos that this movie brought a plethora of them, and then our pros and cons before rating it out of 10.
All right.
So our characters, first we got to start with the one and the only Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds.
Man, he was great.
I mean, what can you not say? He was fantastic in this movie. I mean, I feel Ryan Reynolds was at his most Deadpool in this movie.
Man, he didn't miss a step.
He didn't
since the last movie
at all. So
the
consistent. First Deadpool, and I mean, you think of X-Men Origins Wolverine with that version of Deadpool, and then you get the 2016 first one, the 2018 Deadpool 2, and in this one, it feels like all of this training, he has become Deadpool.
Yeah,
and it was so fantastic. I mean, he's always been great in this role. I think Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool, same as Hugh Jackman was born to play Wolverine, and I think he nailed every aspect.
Yeah, and I really liked his emotional, arc storyline there.
I do too. Like, he had a good story.
Yeah.
The emotions underlying, like, he still, he uses his comedicness to cope with his tragedy and his traumatic past. So,
I mean, he's a depressed guy.
He is. He's genuinely depressed. I mean, you think about it. I mean, one post I saw which was really cool is, I mean, Deadpool is in a constant state of death, but he can't die. Whereas Wolverine's constantly healing. He's constantly in a state of life. Yeah. So it's that opposite opposing factor of their difference of their healing factor. So if you have a guy who's in a constant state of death but can never die, on top of his depression and all of this stuff that goes into it, and using comedy to cope, it's just such a beautiful story, and I really appreciate how this movie did so with him.
And seeing him just struggle to find purpose and meaning in this movie,
which was so cool.
It really hit home.
Right.
You see him bouncing around to a lot of different jobs. I think that's relatable to a lot of us. It's like when he's working at the car dealership, it's like, we're not always doing exactly what we want to be doing, what we feel called to be doing. But we think that there's better stuff ahead. Absolutely. So it shows him doing all this stuff, just for these people in this photograph, just for his friends. And
absolutely
seeing his character development, from the first 2016 one to see him really care about his friends, his family, and really, I mean, it's weird to say that he matured as a character.
I know,
but he truly has.
Like, he's not a mature character, but he did mature. He's matured as a character because you can see him, grow from this person who's kind of a loner and hates life, but uses comedy to cope with that factor. To using comedy in a different aspect to cope with everything else. But he still has that family, which is one really cool scene that I loved was when he was having his birthday party, and you could tell, he's got everything he loves right next to him, but he's missing that adventure and that funness and that fun factor of Deadpool. And then he blows out the candle, and as soon as he does, the TVA is knocking on his door. I thought that was a cool detail to say, he wished for an adventure. He wished for something more.
I didn't think about that.
He didn't just wish for all of this to be the same because he wasn't happy.
He wants to do something that matters.
Right.
Like it shows in that scene with him and his girl. She's like, show me you care about something bigger than yourself. Right? It's
like he wanted to show him he care, or even when he was interviewing to be an Avenger, which was great. He, the person who was interviewing him was just constantly like, it's not for you, it's for others. It's to help others. And that was
want this because you need it, but the Avengers do it because the world needs them.
Exactly. And that's one thing I love that was a good emotional depth theme in this movie, was show how Deadpool goes from this guy who wants to, find a place in the universe. But instead realizes at the end, he's like, I'm here for others. I need to help others. And I am a superhero that kills people. And I mean, but he does it well. He does
morally gray.
Morally gray area with Deadpool, but he does an incredible job. Ryan Reynolds was at his top notch. I mean, he's born to play this character. That's all we can say.
Killed
about
it, man.
Deadpool. Absolutely killed. And all the action sequences with him were just great.
Fire.
The first scene, holy cow! I love that first scene.
That's probably my favorite scene of the whole movie.
It's up there. It's up there. I mean, him Dancepool dancing. And unfortunately, it's not Ryan Reynolds, but still killed it. And dancing to was NSYNC, is that right?
Yeah,
dancing to NSYNC,
to Bye Bye Bye,
and to Bye Bye Bye, and throwing Logan's dead corpse around, killing the TVA
with
that was
bones.
So creative.
I know.
Whoever thought of that was like, well, first off, you probably need a therapist, but second off, incredible thinking, because that was super, super cool and super out there and such a character and such a cool scene.
Killed it. I love that scene.
Gotta love it. All right, next, let's talk about the man himself, Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman.
Man, in my opinion, Michael, I think he was the best part.
100%, and I don't think anybody would disagree.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman is the best part of this movie as Wolverine. He's played Wolverine since the year 2000 or earlier because he had to get casted earlier. So like 1999, maybe 98, he's been playing Wolverine. And now he's here in 2024 playing him again. Like Deadpool says, you're going to be playing him until you're 90, which was great. But
guaranteed
he
check.
is at his best. He's at his best here. He's like, he finally knows how to play this character in the perfect light. And he does so well. And he brings in, like, Deadpool has this comedicness, and he brings in that emotional depth that pair together so well. And I will say, I'd have to think about it really deeply, but Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's chemistry as Deadpool and Wolverine could be my favorite chemistry I've seen on screen in a long time.
Wow.
Because, they're such good, because they've been friends for so many years, their chemistry was just top notch. What do you think?
No, I agree, man. They absolutely kill it. And, in any Deadpool movie, you really need that emotional depth
Absolutely.
to ground that story.
Yeah.
And obviously, we see that from Hugh Jackman. Now, what he's going through, we've seen it in a lot of movies, right?
Sure.
One of your main characters, they feel a lot of guilt, they feel shame, they screwed up in the past.
Sure.
And, they've become an alcoholic. They've resorted to pushing everyone away, becoming a loner.
Right.
And we see that same case here with Wolverine's character. But I thought Hugh Jackman did a really good job.
I agree. He brought a fresh new take to that, that plot. And that's just Wolverine's character. He's always down in the dumps for something, and he nailed it so well. And and even though it wasn't the Wolverine that we've all grown and known and loved, like in Logan, it's still his version of Wolverine that he played here was a refreshing take on the character that felt different yet the same as the one we got in the past, which was just really awesome.
And the same,
exactly. And him in the suit, man. When he put that mask on, that might be my favorite. No,
that scene was fire.
That was one of my favorite scenes when they're dancing and Madonna's going on like a prayer.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And him and when he's got the mask on, they're destroying all the Deadpools, and it's just a phenomenal sequence, and I loved it. And it was just so awesome. And how Deadpool reacts with the audience to him doing the stuff is just so incredible too.
You waited 20 years.
Yes, and now he's done it, and it was great.
Did you see that interview with Hugh Jackman when he was talking about it? He's like, dude, it was like addicting putting it on. He's like, I can't believe I never wore this.
I know. He's like,
oh man,
why did they never do this before?
I know. Even he's like, dude, I should have been wearing this the whole time.
He should have been wearing it because it was awesome. It was just so cool to see him in that suit for the first time and finally get that. And it didn't look cheesy to me.
No,
like it didn't
I thought it looked
cheesy.
really good.
It looked natural. It looked like the character. And I feel like as soon as he put that mask on, he became the comic book Wolverine. He was always Wolverine, but when he put that mask on, I was like, dude, that is the Wolverine that we've been talking about for a long time. It was so refreshing and such a cool take on this character we've known for so long.
Yeah.
And I just loved it.
I love the contrast I just thought about this, because his suit, it's so bright and it's fresh in the beginning, but he's just, he's completely out of it.
Right.
He's tuned out. He's tough. But as the movie goes on, his suit gets bloody, bullet holes, gets ripped apart, right? But then he opens up on the inside. I think that's a really cool contrast.
That is a cool contrast.
His sleeves slowly come off.
Yeah.
Blood everywhere.
And I loved the reasoning too of the reason he was wearing that suit. It's not because he wanted to. Yeah. It's because he said in the movie when he was talking to a certain character we'll get to in a few minutes, he was saying, how Scott and Jean and Storm and Beast all begged him to wear it, but he just never wanted to be an X-Men, but secretly he did. He wanted to be a part of this team, even though he put them all aside and pushed them away, and that's what inevitably happens, and they end up dying in his universe, and he's the one responsible, claiming to be. But so now he wears it as a reminder of what he could have had. I just thought that was so well done. I thought that was really, really good take on the reasoning of him wearing that suit and the execution of that.
So he's wearing it to not like to bring more shame and guilt upon himself, you think? He's wearing it in honor of them?
I think both. I mean, you think in one case he's wearing it in a sense of as a reminder of what he did and how it was wrong and to show that he should never do that again. Yeah. In another case, he's like, I'm the X-Men. I could have been with them the entire time, so I'm honoring them by wearing this. I think it's both. Definitely both elements pop through. But gotta love Wolverine and this character.
Yeah.
All right, the next major character we got to talk about is the villain of the film, or one of the tag team villains, Cassandra Nova, played by Emma Corrin.
I think she gave a great performance.
I agree. I don't think nothing was wrong with Emma Corrin. I think she was fantastic as Cassandra Nova. I just feel like some of the plot details and some of the writing around her particular character wasn't executed properly.
I feel like they screwed her over. You know, I don't think they gave her enough. You know, they introduce her, you know, as Charles' twin, you know, an Omega level mutant. And then
that she was.
We never really see her power beyond really the first time we see her.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing. Plus, you know, we won't get to see more of her.
Yeah.
So I was definitely disappointed. I think the writing could have been a lot better with her. That's no fault of her own.
No.
But I thought, with limited stuff going on, I thought she did a really good job.
I do too. I think, you know, my perspective is, yes, she had limited. I don't think it necessarily completely screwed her over, though, because I think she still translated as a good villain. I still think she was a good villain at the end of the day. The other villain we'll talk about, on the other hand, that's a different story. But her as a villain, I think she was a good villain. It's just,
I
you're
think
right.
she was a good villain, but I don't think they give her enough villain.
Right,
things.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. I feel like she could have had more. They shouldn't have killed her off, for one thing.
Yeah.
I feel like she would have been a great addition in future adaptations. I would have loved to seen her and Charles on screen together at some point. I think that would have been a really cool dynamic. And to introduce her as this great villain that nobody knows a lot of, you would think they would have had Charles be in some capacity involved.
Or, you know, give her more chances to show off her power or something.
Right.
But then in the end, I feel like they just mess up by like doing a 180 with their character.
I agree. And I feel like in a lot of ways, they had two plots in this movie going in one. And if they would have just cut it and focused on her and her plot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I think it would have made like a lot more of a difference there at the end. And it would have been a lot cooler if you focused on her in the void, you know, wanting all this power, and then them coming in and almost destroying her power as a result. I think that would have been a cooler focus
better,
than having that adage at the end.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I'm with you 100%.
But we'll see. But overall, I liked her as a villain. I see a lot of people that didn't necessarily result and like her as much, but I think she was a great villain.
Yeah.
I just think some of the elements of her could have been better written and better developed.
I agree.
In my opinion. All right, now let's talk about our secondary antagonist, and that being Paradox, played by Matthew McFadden.
I didn't like this.
I didn't like this character at all. I didn't like him at all.
Not saying he did bad.
No.
I think he did well with what they wanted him to do. But man, this writing and this whole subplot was bad.
I just think the writing, like his dialogue was not really good at all.
No.
Like they try to play him off as this like, what's the way, like this dumb leader of this underground TVA movement that wants to get rid of stuff. Yeah. But we've seen that in Loki, and it was better executed in Loki.
And we know like how unforgiving and just how strict the TVA is with their stuff. So just the idea of a rogue agent and like rogue, and like co-workers doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. We already got that in Loki, but at the end of Loki season 2, the whole premise was that B-15 took over, and it's a better overall TVA.
Yeah.
But if you're having this guy come in and ruin stuff and all of this, and then it just didn't make sense.
How do they not know? Like that's what I'm stuck on.
I think if I was to change it up, I would have probably eliminated his character completely, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I would have had the TVA been involved.
Yeah.
But and then still kept the focus of his universe is dying, this, that, or the other. But I think his particular character wasn't necessarily needed in this whole TVA ritual. I think it would have been even cooler, though, if Deadpool was like, if the TVA did actually sanction this event and this had to happen, and this wasn't like it wasn't like an evil plot that he just wanted to take over the TVA, but instead it had to happen because if it was died off gradually, then it may have affected other universes. I think that might have worked better instead of having it being like, oh, we just want to get rid of it to clean up clean up a file too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm with you.
If you would have just eliminated his character and then had Deadpool with, the anger of the TVA, I think that might have worked a little
and I would have given the TVA just a very, very, very small role.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're in Loki, not everyone's seen that. So I would have given him a small role, cut him out completely, and then, just have really the TVA in there to get those two characters into the void. Right?
And that would make more sense.
I think the whole partnership thing with Cassandra and Matthew McFadden's character is just weird.
It is really weird,
to be
and
honest.
It was very disconnected.
Very
and
weird.
The everything that Paradox did.
How do they not know that they have a deal?
Yeah, it didn't make sense, and the whole pyro plot, along with that, didn't make a lot of sense either. And it was just kind of there for fluff, but didn't really.
It was.
Add
we kidnapped you as a kid, but now you take out the trash. But now I want to kill you in here.
Yeah, it's just,
even though you're super powerful, even though you could have come into the real world at any point in time.
Right. And I think a lot of the plot like lacking just because of his character. I feel like if you take him out of the equation, the movie instantly goes up in points. I really do think that.
And I think they try to make him a little more threatening than what he actually comes off as.
He wasn't threatening at all. And yeah, I agree. Like in the dialogue that he used, they try to make him funny, which I don't think I laughed at anything he said.
I don't think I did either.
If I was to change it, like if they still wanted to include this character, I would have made him serious. That's the thing. I would have made him a serious character. I wouldn't have made him witty. I wouldn't have made him funny. I wouldn't have made him any of that. I would have made him a serious character. And that may have been a little bit more compelling for me anyway.
I'm with you.
All right, let's talk about our next set of characters. This comes as a set, and that being first off, Peter. Live, love,
funny.
Peter. Love Peter.
He's like, I knew a friend. Talking about himself.
Yeah, talking about himself. Yeah. Who did the piercings. And then I'm Peter Pool was just fantastic. Yeah. Him coming in dressed up. It's Peter.
Everyone has a Peter.
And then just going around him. I mean, that was that whole scene when all the Deadpools were just like, oh, Peter, yeah. That was kind of cheesy. Yeah. And yes, it kind of was
it's
just
funny,
kind of
but it's cheesy.
And yes, it was kind of used as a way for them to get away, which was kind of cheesy and stupid.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
needed something.
I loved it, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm not going to deny it any further. But Peter was great in this movie. Out of all the former Deadpool characters, he had the most screen time, which I thought was interesting. Why they chose Peter in particular, but he was such a fan favorite in Deadpool 2.
Yeah,
I mean, he's Sugar Bear. I mean, how can you not love Sugar Bear?
Yeah,
and he was great in this movie.
Yeah, they're using him, to ground Deadpool, to that,
to make him
that
human,
job,
to make him human, and he's innocent. He adds that innocence to this rated R, deeply crazy film. Yeah. He adds that innocence factor, which every rated R film needs to come some capacity, I believe. And then you got the rest of the former Deadpool characters. We got all the really core Deadpool characters like Vanessa, Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Yukio, Dopeender, Blind Owl, even Shatterstar, which I didn't even know he saved. I don't know why he came in the picture.
I was not expecting that.
But they were really just in it. Blind Owl had a little bit more screen time than the rest.
She's so funny.
She is so funny.
She is so funny.
I
think she might have had some of the funniest jokes in the whole movie.
She was funny. I mean, just the stuff she says.
You trying to kill me? Sells her blood pressure medication.
Oh, man. It was great. It was great. And then we got them and just really got the birthday scene. And I mean, yes, I agree that they didn't necessarily need screen time and didn't necessarily have a plot in this movie. But I feel like, that's his core of characters. That was the first two Deadpools was all about. Yeah. Where was Domino at, by the way? She wasn't even around. But anyway,
I didn't think about that.
The first two Deadpools, had them as just huge characters, and then now they're just there. Yeah,
I mean, obviously Hugh is taking all their screen time.
He is.
But in the movie where Deadpool's changed to become this character, all because of his love for his friends, they show the friends a very little amount.
Very little. I mean, they have Vanessa like in flashback scenes, and that's kind of his anchor for his mind. That's why he's doing what he's doing, and he still loves her. And the whole fact that they're separated had a good plot. But yeah, I would have thought that maybe some more screen time, but I understand. Like, yes, they didn't really have a place in this movie compared to other characters. So I get it for not really including them a lot. But I would have loved to see a little bit more Colossus. I feel like that would have been... I love Colossus in the first two movies. I would have liked to seen him like help Deadpool and Wolverine out in some capacity.
And all we get to see is him talking about the Great British Bake
Off. I know. Oh, yeah, that was funny.
That show stood between me and suicide for 10 years.
Deadpool says. Brutal. All right, so now let's get on to our plethora of cameos. And let's talk about cameos for a second, because I feel this movie does them well. Do you agree?
No, I agree.
Because like most movies we can say, like Multiverse of Madness and others that include cameos just to include them, don't do it well. Like I think this movie does cameos how Multiverse of Madness should have done cameos. Because Multiverse of Madness's cameos were the Illuminati, and they were terrible, right? Aside from John Krasinski, I love you, John Krasinski, you were great. But the rest, they were terrible. They weren't good cameos by any means, and they just didn't fit with the overall arch of the movie, except for the fact that they are cameos. That's the only reason they were.
You don't want to take away from the central narrative of the story.
And that's one thing I appreciated, is that these cameos did not take away from the central narrative. They were just there for little fan moments that were great and enjoyable. And
that's like 15, 10 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Now, some of the cameos were actually integral parts of the story, which I thought were really cool too. I was like, they're actual characters instead of just brief appearances.
Yeah.
That was interesting, and I think was a benefit for this movie as well. So let's get into the cameos in order of their character. First off, we get all Happy Hogan.
Yeah, he was good, man. Dude, as always.
I love Jon Favreau, and he was just so good. And I genuinely thought, like, is Robert Downey Jr. going to show up here as Tony Stark? I thought that for a minute.
Talking about the man. I was like, I really thought at first it was going to be Kevin Feige sitting at the desk. I was convinced it was gonna be him and Deadpool.
That might have been
because
cool.
it didn't show him at first.
And
I'm like,
like,
it's Feige.
That actually kind of would have worked
Think
better.
about it, yeah.
Because him being like, please bring me to the MCU.
I know.
Please bring me there.
Dude, I'm telling you, Feige would have been perfect for that.
He would have been. I like that idea. That should have been kept in a movie.
Because he talks about it. It would have been so funny.
He does talk about Feige quite a bit.
If he was doing his interview with Feige. Like,
that
let me in.
Like at Marvel Studios.
Let me in.
That would have been so great.
Yeah.
Anyway, Happy Hogan was a good option as well.
I think they had really good chemistry.
They did.
It was hilarious. And
Jon Favreau was fantastic.
Jon Favreau did a good job.
He's so good. And just him being like, I want an Avenger. And the fact that this scene gave really the theme of this movie was really cool.
Yeah.
Just this opening scene that has this cameo with all this other stuff in the background, him trying to be an Avenger, gave the theme of the film, which I thought was cool.
And, in the very end of the movie, when Wade is doing his thing, he references the line, that Jon Favreau told him about, superheroes do it because the world needs them.
Yep.
It ties it all back.
It was fire. It was fire line and fire cameo there. And one part I wanted to mention in his cameo scene is that if you notice and you see a picture of Tony Stark, that was a picture of Tony Stark and Peter, but Peter's face is covered. So a lot of people are saying one of two things. One is because everybody forgot Peter.
Yeah.
But then again, this cameo takes place in 2018. But they're saying how the magic works is they forget him for all time.
Oh,
so
okay.
They forgot him. So I don't know exactly. So saying like he was covered
his face was covered.
I didn't notice forgot him.
Okay.
Or it's because of he's tied to Sony contracts and they didn't show him because of that. But
he's a minor. I don't know. Something like
I think it's more likely that the world's forgot him. Sadly.
That has to be it.
Which a big plot, I think, of what I've heard rumor wise, this is taking a little bit of a tangent, is that him not being remembered going to have a huge plot in Secret Wars.
Really?
I really do think so. So we'll see.
I have not heard that.
We'll talk more about that, wink, wink, in our Comic-Con news.
Yeah.
Go listen.
I'm excited.
Right now. All right. Now let's talk about the other Wolverines.
Fire.
Dude,
why was one
good.
getting crucified? I'm still
that's
confused.
a comic book.
Is it actually?
That's a cover of a comic book.
Okay.
Wolverine getting crucified.
What was with all those skulls?
I don't know. I've never read that comic. So
the people he's killed, he's suffering
he's
for it.
Suffering for, I don't know. But Nathan, you talk about these cameos. Bring them in.
I think I know. First of all, we see the tiny.
We got comic accurate.
Yeah, he hops off his stool,
which I think he made him a little bit smaller than he actually is.
He was like 3 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall.
In the comics, he's 5'3", which is still very small.
Okay, 5'3" was taller.
But that's
they
taller.
did him dirty.
They did him very dirty.
One.
Comic accurate.
So
Wolverine, but that was
I
know. He's like, oh, look at you.
Yeah,
that was so funny.
Comic.
That was like when he said, "Oh, look at you." I thought of the scene in Elf when he's talking to Peter Dinklage.
Oh yeah,
I thought of that.
He's
scene.
like, you say what did he say? You say Elf one more time. Elf.
Yeah.
Just jumps off the table.
That reminded me of that. It was great.
Oh man, such a good movie.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau.
Also Jon Favreau.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
And the next one we see, it's like that weird 80s one, right?
The apocalyptic Wolverine. So it's like it's like a Days of Future Past. Like after the world is destroyed by Sentinels and all this stuff, you have this Wolverine.
Okay.
So that was cool.
I like that version.
That was a cool Wolverine.
He's in the alley just beating the crap out of him.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, he was cool.
It was great.
And then after that, we saw Patch.
We saw Patch in the casino.
Yeah.
We got Patch. He was a good Easter egg.
I wish we could have gotten a little more.
I thought we would have too from the movie. I thought he'd dress up as Patch or something.
Maybe like Deadpool sit down for like a short glimpse of poker or something like that. Would have been cool.
I think that would have been cool as well.
And then after that, we see the brown and yellow suit.
We do, right? Which was hype.
This was my favorite. Suit. My favorite, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You see Hulk's reflection
in his claws.
That's after Deadpool's like, "Don't you fight the Hulk in this suit?"
Yep. And they popped up.
Oh, man.
I'm so glad. Like, it's bittersweet part of me because I'm so glad that they were willing to show that and that they were willing to go in and be like, okay, we got a glimpse of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the brown and yellow versus the Hulk, and we get a glimpse of that. But it was so short. I would have liked to see the actual fight, and maybe this leaves room for the future of we'll actually get a whole Wolverine Hulk fight. But I'm glad that they included it in this movie because it got me so hyped when I saw it.
I know, dude.
So hyped. I was like,
just
whoa!
Seeing like Hulk's shoulder and it was
epic. It was epic. I saw a lot of people were like, "That's Edward Norton's Hulk," but no, it was Mark Ruffalo.
I'm pretty sure the face, was.
I looked at the face. It was Mark Ruffalo
in the claws,
but still super cool. That we were able to get that.
That was really cool.
It was.
And then we see, him getting crucified.
Yep.
And that's and then we see one of the coolest
before
ones.
the cool one, we got Old Man Logan. from the comics who was
he's on the porch.
He's on the porch and he shot him with a shotgun.
He's giving off like major Yellowstone vibes there.
And that was Old Man Logan we got. And then finally
and then finally we got Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, the Calverine, as they called him.
That part was awesome. He looks so good.
Like I didn't even. He
looks so good. Of course,
when I pictured him, I mean, I was like, he'd be a good Wolverine. But then I saw him, and I was like,
when his jawline came around, I'm like, dude, I think that's Henry Cavill. And he turned. I'm like,
it was
dude, no
so
way.
great. And his voice was perfect. He looked the part. I'm like, Marvel, don't do what you did with John Krasinski and then recast as Pedro Pascal. Keep Henry Cavill. Bring him in as Wolverine. He'd be perfect. He loves superheroes. He loves doing it.
He's jacked already.
And then Deadpool was like, come on, we'll do you better than the other studio. That was fantastic.
I know. Yeah. The other studio down the street.
That was so good. And I love seeing Henry Cavill in that capacity and being willing to be the Calverine was just
how cool is that, man?
It was so great.
How
so
cool
great.
is that?
Shout out to him.
He's not that old, probably. He's what, in his 40s, maybe early 40s.
I don't know. He's probably the same age as Hugh. No, Hugh Jackman's in his 50s.
Yeah,
I think
he's probably
like 10 years younger.
So they could pump out a good like 2 movies. In that
easily,
time.
or maybe even more. Like bring him in, man. I would love to see him. Love it.
That'd be so cool.
So cool. So cool.
He was awesome. He fit perfectly.
I know it. I'm so glad that they did that. All right, then we got another huge cameo. This one was completely unexpected.
Okay.
Completely unexpected. No thoughts or ifs about it. And that being, well, first off, Chris Evans popping down. At first, I was like, "Is that Tony Stark? Is that?"
I didn't recognize the voice.
I didn't either.
Obviously, you did the second time. You're like, "That's Chris Evans."
Yes.
First time, I didn't.
I didn't either. I was like, "Who is this?"
Yeah.
And then he popped down and took the hood off, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa!"
Yeah.
I was in shock.
I know,
like,
me too.
Chris Evans came back.
No one in my theater said anything though. It's like dead silent.
Lame.
I know. I was like,
mine didn't. Mine was like, "Whoa!" And that was me. I was like,
I'm like, what?
And then he was talking and stuff, and I was like, they brought back Captain America. Captain America's in this movie. And then I heard him cuss, and I was like, I looked over at my brother who I watched the movie the first watch with, and I was like, dude, that's Human Torch. That's Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
As soon as he cussed, and then he's like, oh, he's gonna say Avengers, flame on. I was like, whoa! I got so hyped.
And it gets like 3 seconds of glory,
dude. I got so hyped when he go and flamed on.
I got so excited.
Oh, that was awesome! It was so cool to see Chris Evans willing to come back as Johnny Storm.
The suit looked good,
and
man.
he looked so good as Human Torch. And then Pyro bodied him, which, by the way, he would not have.
That was dumb.
That made me so mad because Johnny Storm would body Pyro first off.
I mean, that's just all for the writing. You know, like Pyro is so lame, like really in this movie.
Armor.
And he just immediately takes his fire and he falls down.
It's
like
plot armor.
Right on his nuts. It's like they show him to be cool and then they immediately disgrace him.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
I thought it was weird.
I know.
But I really thought it was going to be Cap the whole time.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, first I'm like, dude, like, Chris Evans is skinny now. Like, he is tiny.
Yeah.
So I should have known probably from there that wasn't going to be Cap.
Right.
But it was cool to see him reprise that role again.
And that was just such a cool Easter egg, such a cool cameo. And it was funny, too, because Deadpool recognized him as Captain America, but he didn't end up being Captain America. It was just so funny. Something that'll probably happen similar to another character we'll talk about in our news. Go check it out. Yeah. Comic-Con news right now. Anyway, well, after you finish this one. Wink.
Stop
Wink.
it right now.
You got 2 in a row there. But anyway, it was so cool to get Johnny Storm back, and it was just so cool. Even though he got bodied very quickly.
I wish they would have just given him a fight scene. Like an actual, like, decent, like,
at least a decent fight. But like Deadpool said, he was doing a lot to the budget, which was funny. So funny. So great.
Okay. Yeah, and all the Mad Max references in there, too, dude. Good. They were killing me. A lot of the older people in my theater, they were, like, laughing at that.
They
primarily.
At the Mad Max,
they grew up with that.
There was a lot of references. That was cool. All right, now we got to talk about the next plethora of cameos, group of characters, the former X-Men villains that we got. So we got Sabretooth, first off, who died really quickly.
I was hoping for a more legit fight.
I thought too. I thought there would be a fight. But the scene of him lifting his head in the air, Deadpool, and
cool.
going, I claim the Wolverine. That was hilarious.
What's that a reference to? When he's doing that speech,
I think Furiosa, right? Or not like the original?
Is it the original Mad Max? That's what I thought.
Max.
Yeah, I'm like, because I haven't seen the original trilogy, but I've seen the 2 recent ones.
I think the original.
Okay.
Original.
That's what I thought, but I probably should look.
But that was hilarious. Then we get obviously Pyro, who had the most screen time out of the former X-Men villains, naturally, and then we got Toad.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting cameo.
They did nothing with him.
No, they just killed him.
I mean, they bring back these characters and they didn't do anything with them. Which, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know they spent their budget for all these cameos.
Right.
I would rather have, like, maybe 1 or 2 less cameos and then give us a fight scene maybe with Johnny Storm and a fight scene, like a legit, honest fight scene with Sabretooth.
That would have been cool. That would have been
rather than just, like, the Obi-Wan and Darth Maul duel in Rebels.
That's true. but that was perfect.
That was a lot better than what they did here.
Anyway, yeah. So we got Toad, we got Blob, we got Juggernaut. Obviously, it was the X-Men Last Stand Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Then we got some other ones. Azazel from X-Men First Class. We had, I think, Psylocke was in there. We had Lady Deathstrike. And there was a few other like little ones, but they were not as
but like
big,
only two of them had speaking lines, right?
Pyro and Sabretooth.
Pyro and Sabretooth. I don't think any of the other... Juggernaut.
Yeah, Juggernaut.
I know. I mean, obviously, that's for budget reasons, you know, because if they talk, they got to get paid.
Right.
That's just weird to
me,
And
a lot of those people that were playing the characters weren't the original. I think Sabretooth, Pyro, and Juggernaut were the only three that were the original ones who played the characters. Yeah. The other ones were just portraying them to have a little small cameo in there. But...
I don't know. It's weird. I wish we would have gotten more from them, if I'm being honest.
I did too. All right, then we get a good cameo from old Nice Pool. Nice Pool comes in luxurious after Mary Poppins, a.k.a. Dog Pool, comes in. Yeah. I love... Nice Pool's was great.
I wanted to kill him the entire time. He has a punchable face.
He does have a punchable face. He was played by Gordon Reynolds. For those who don't know, Gordon Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds' made-up twin brother. But
I was about to say, because he looked an awful like.
Awful lot like. Reynolds. No, yeah, so his made-up twin brother is actually listed in the credits as Nice Pool, played by Gordon Reynolds.
His made-up. Why would he make up a twin brother?
For the laughs.
You're just a lonely kid?
Why not? He was a lonely kid, needed a twin brother named Gordon Reynolds. And that's who played Nice Pool with the long, luscious hair with Mary Poppins. And he was just so funny.
He probably drinks soy milk in his free time.
He definitely does. Soy milk. Hot yoga, absolutely.
Vegan,
yeah. That's Nice Pool. That's 100%. And I just thought he was funny. Like he had one of the funniest executions in this movie, and that was when he broke the fourth wall just to go the proposal.
He's like, I can do that too. The proposal.
That was so funny. My theater died the first time.
And Deadpool did. I think it didn't seem like he knew what he was talking about.
I know.
Like, what do you mean, man?
He was like, what? What was that?
Yeah, what was that?
That was just hilarious.
The proposal.
I thought that.
And
was
he gave
so
that to
funny.
look to. Oh yeah, man.
That was so funny.
I watched it for the first time last Valentine's Day.
yeah, really.
It's so funny.
Great movie.
It's so funny.
Gotta love Sandra Bullock and Ryan.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But anyway, funny stuff. And he was just, and then Deadpool kills him, but it was just so funny. He's like, "You're gonna live. Say it with me." And then he just really wanted his guns. It's only he was just holding.
He just murdered that man.
Yeah, he totally.
I think my favorite comedic line of the whole thing, where he's talking to Wolverine, and he's like, "He died like a hero." It says something like he sacrificed himself. He goes, "No, you murdered him."
yeah.
Like you dumb.
He's like, "We don't need to say what." He's like, "That's subjective opinion." It was just so.
He's
funny.
like, "There's a donut cart over there." Like they sell like medicine, something like that. Drags him out just to get killed.
Just to get killed, so block him so he could have his gun.
So he could take his
and
guns
take his dog.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Poor
so
dog,
funny.
man. Just watching his owner just get obliterated by his own people.
He wanted to be with Wade. He wanted to be with the main
dog. That raises the question, like, is Gordon evil? You know, because the dog wanted to get away from him. Because in both seasons he's running away from him.
What if he's actually?
So maybe
not
he's not. Maybe he's mean pool.
Maybe.
Yeah, think about.
Maybe he's.
You know how bad of a person you have to be for a dog not to like you.
That's true. That is true. Well, not necessarily. Some dogs just don't like people.
Yeah, but like they're not like mean, but like they don't run away from them. You know what I'm saying?
True.
It takes a lot for a dog to run away from you. I feel like maybe, or you just smell bad.
True. All right, so the next couple of characters were massive, and this was a huge thing that came up with, and some of these we knew, some of these were utter shock also as well, not expected cameos. The first one we knew a long time ago, that being Jennifer Gardner coming back as Elektra. What do we think about her?
So, I think I texted you after the movie.
Yeah.
I said, I forgot how bad of an actress Jennifer Gardner is.
I don't think she's that bad.
I thought she was terrible.
I mean, I don't think she was great in this movie, but in general, she's not a bad
Her
actress.
line delivery was so bad.
A lot of them
in
were
this
weak.
movie.
Like, you could tell she was just
all
kind
right,
of
guys, we got a team together. Or something. Like, maybe it's just her dialogue, but I thought her line delivery was terrible.
That's
like,
fair.
I was laughing at her.
That's fair. And I'm also curious, like, out of all the characters, I wonder why they chose Elektra to come back.
Plus, after all this Capital One ads, I have a hard time like seeing her not as like a baseball mom.
Fair. But she was an interesting addition. But this next couple was banger after banger. So first off, we got the return of Wesley Snipes, right? As Blade.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes as Blade.
I was shocked. I was not expecting
this either.
at all. Nobody was. And when he appeared on screen, he had that boom, 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 and you just see him like walk by. You're like, everybody's like, whoa. Yeah. Was not expecting him. He was a welcome addition. He was so good in this movie. So funny. But so good. He brought in a seriousness, but he was a comedic seriousness, which was great.
I wish he had more too.
I know,
I loved him.
I know. He did such a good job in this movie. And then we got the cameo of all cameos here, and that being Gambit, played by Channing freaking Tatum.
He was funny.
Dude.
He was real funny.
He was so great. I thought he did such a good job. It made me realize how much we missed such an opportunity with Channing Tatum as Gambit, because I think he killed it. I think from the dialogue, from the way he portrayed Gambit as the character, I think he portrayed him really, really well.
Yeah.
I was so impressed. And he probably was my favorite cameo from this movie.
So that accent, that's lore?
That's lore accurate accent, 100%.
What is it? It's French?
No,
Spanish?
it's Cajun. It's a Cajun accent. Cajun accent. A lot of people in Louisiana accent. Okay. A lot of people in Louisiana speak like that. So yeah, that is a lore accurate accent. A lot of people,
I was like, I don't even understand what this man is saying right now.
That's lore accurate. A lot of people couldn't understand him in comics and stuff, but that's his accent, which I thought it was so well done. I thought he was great. I mean, Gambit's a fan favorite character in general, and to see Channing Tatum play him was just such a refreshing take, and it was so cool to finally, like, I mean, we've seen him in live action before, but it wasn't that great in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but this became my favorite iteration of Gambit. I mean, this is only the second time we've seen him in live action, but I loved it. I thought it was so
cool.
Good.
He had that eyeshadow too, I think, going on.
He looked just like the comics, and I thought that was really cool.
He was cool.
And then finally, to round up this team, we get the return of X-23, Laura, back.
Man, she was awesome.
She was a great, emotional, refreshing part of this movie.
She worked obviously so well.
She did.
With Wolverine, you know, like she's grounded in his character. That are similar, like with Peter and Deadpool's friends. I wish we would have gotten more from that kind of bonfire scene.
I do too.
Know, I feel like it's thrown in right at the end of the second act, like going into the third act, right before they battle. I wish we would have gotten more.
I wish we would have gotten more of her in this movie with dialogue, because I feel like, yes, we had that great campfire scene, which was an incredible scene. It definitely brought some emotional ground for both characters. But if they could have extended that scene a little bit, or even had her talk to Deadpool more so about him and what their experience was, even though he probably would have made fun of it, would have been cool to see as well. But she was a great addition. I was glad she came back. And I found out the reason they revealed her in the final trailer instead of saving her for the movie was because, one, they wanted her to come to the movie review, and she wanted to come to the movie premiere.
Okay.
She wanted to come, and they wanted her to come.
And obviously they would have known if she was there.
And they would have known if she was there. And I think that was the main reason. And then another reason was just to capitalize off a lot of the some stuff that
makes sense, because I definitely was confused when they made an announcement like 5 days before the movie came out. Yeah. Like what? I mean, we all knew she was gonna be in it, but she was on the record like, I'm not gonna be in this movie. I'm like, man, stop lying.
But finally they revealed it that she is gonna be, and she was great. And this rounded out what I believe, even though they didn't give him the title, of the MCU's first iteration of the Midnight Suns. Because if you look at the Midnight Suns roster, you have, Ledger's been on it, Blade's been on it, Gambit I think's been on it before, X-23's definitely been on it, Wolverine and Deadpool. They've all been on it before. So this definitely felt like the Midnight Suns to me.
Yeah,
I thought it was so cool.
Then you had mentions of Quicksilver, Daredevil, and Punisher
as well, which also, I don't know about Quicksilver, so he's been on the team, but he may have. But Punisher and Daredevil have definitely been. Which is just awesome. So I thought it was really cool. As soon as I saw them, I was like, this is the Midnight Suns. We're finally getting them. They never got their necessarily title or anything, but it was really, really cool to finally see them.
Question is, why did they have Wanda on the ceiling of their base?
Why was Wanda a brief cameo on the ceiling? I guess just to kind of throw her in as like, she's this entity and she's involved there too. But that was also an interesting cameo.
Like where? Because they're living like in a dump. It looks like from the outside, but
it looks
the
like
inside is like
it
stone.
Kind of looks like a used to be like a castle or something,
like a temple or something of that sort.
Right? I don't know, but it's still a cool one.
Maybe that transport into the void with Wanda.
It could maybe Wanda transport into the void, and that's going to be the plot point sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, really cool to see them all together. Really, really cool. I enjoyed seeing their team up. All right, now I believe that rounds off our characters. Let's talk pros and cons.
You go first.
Me hit first with the first pro?
Go ahead.
We already talked about this, but I'm just going to hit it again. My first pro is the best pro, and that's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's the best part of this movie. I'll die on that hill. I don't think anybody will argue with that, to be honest, though. But he's the best part, from his character development, from his arc to his acting. Everything about him was just incredible. So that's my first pro.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was also my biggest pro. Like I said earlier, he brings that much needed emotional depth to this very comedic movie. He kind of ties it all together. And like you said, I'm not saying it's the best performance of Wolverine that we've seen, but it's certainly up there with Logan, I believe.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I love Hugh Jackman. Oh man, that scene where he's crawling on all fours.
Oh, so cool.
I'm like, oh,
so
man,
cool, so cool.
We've been missing out.
I know, we really have.
So yeah, I thought he was by far the best part of this movie.
I completely agree. My next pro is, and this is fully a pro, because usually this is a con on a lot of points, but for this particular movie, it's a pro. This is the funniest Marvel movie I've ever seen, right? This is, MCU movie, I should say. This is the funniest MCU movie, and it was just so great. It was such a refreshing comedy. I think it was just so funny, so entertaining, and it brought a lot of that entertainment value to this movie, which brings audiences to come see it. So that's a massive pro for me, just being so funny as it was.
For my next pro, I'm just going to go with the cameos. Similar to the comedy, like you said, a lot of times this can be a negative, a lot of times it can be a con. Specifically, the Henry Cavill cameo, the Hulk cameo, the Johnny Storm cameo. It didn't distract or really take away from that main storyline. So I thought that fan service was nice.
I agree. I like that. That's good. All right, my next pro, we also touched on this, but I have to say it again, is the chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. I think their chemistry was just so well done in this movie. It brought a great emotional depth, but also comedy, and they just fitted so well together. It made me realize like how much I wish we would have got them sooner as to now, and this is probably the last time we'll get that.
Yeah.
So it was really, really cool to see them finally work together on screen and have the greatest chemistry I've seen in a long time.
I'm with you. I think I'm going to go with the opening scene as my next pro.
Sure.
I think it's a top 5 Marvel opening scene. It's hilarious. It fits the character. The way they introduce the cast names, while he's wiping out these TVA agents, amazing. Great song selection.
Yes.
Killer choreography. And I was just laughing and just kind of dancing in my seat the whole time too. So it really set a good mood for the rest of the movie.
I agree. That's a good pro. And to go with that pro, very similar, is just the music choices in this movie are so good. Every single song that they picked and music that they did fits so well.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that I would get such like pumped up from hearing Like a Prayer from Madonna in this like movie in this capacity. Like I was pumped every time that came on screen. It was so good. I mean, The Greatest Show, Praying Briefly was funny. All the other music was just bye. I mean, it was just great. I mean, every single scene that had the music was illustrated and done really well. So that's another pro for me.
Iris was killing me when Deadpool jumps out to grab the thing and he's about to land on the TVA worker, and you just hear Iris playing. I love that. And then later at the end, they play it again. That killed me, man.
It was great. I love the music in this movie.
And then I have one last pro here, and that's the montage at the end. During the end credit scenes. That tied everything perfectly together. People are up, they're leaving, they see it, everyone sits back down.
Yeah.
It's emotional.
It's a great send-off.
Despite, these movies weren't always the best, but you see the hard work that was put into them.
Absolutely.
And how it laid that foundation for what the Marvel Universe is today.
I agree.
So.
That was great. That was such a fun addition, unexpected addition that I really appreciated. My next pro is the fourth wall breaks and the MCU Fox references. I think that Deadpool's fourth wall breaks in this movie were the best fourth wall breaks we've seen in a long time. Every single one of them didn't feel like it was just out of place. It felt purposeful and meaningful to the scene that we were doing. I mean, he would reference Hugh Jackman literally. He would reference Disney, would reference the multiverse being a little bit of a miss here and there. That was great. I thought every single reference, I'm surprised that Disney and Marvel was like, yeah, go ahead and say it, because they did such a good job with it. And Ryan Reynolds' execution of that benefited it as well. Just, they were so good. Fourth wall breaks is just so funny. And my other final pro is just the overall funness of this movie. This movie was just such a fun time. It was fun. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
And even though it had its faults when it comes to some of the, trivial things, it's still an entertaining movie and entertaining entry into the MCU. So I appreciate that quite a bit.
I'm with you.
All right, now on to cons. Nathan, you go with the cons.
I'll start because I think I'll have more than you. But my first really big con is just the overall plot, right? The narrative. In my eyes, this is just another world-ending multiverse mess. It feels to me just generic and bland, to be honest. I mean, you'd see, Deadpool break the fourth wall, and then he'd say that, audiences, they're tired of this multiverse stuff. But then, they end up just doing another one of those plots you see in the third act. And it felt like there's really no stakes with this movie, at all. Like, the plot was just hammering home that the timeline was ending and the worlds are ending, and you're like, come on now, like how many times have we seen this? And then I really feel like it would have helped, like I said earlier, if we saw Wade's friends a little bit more, to kind of ground, what he's feeling a little bit more. And I think also what kind of diluted that plot a little bit, I think they tried to throw too much stuff in there. Sure. Like you had an emotional Deadpool storyline, you had the emotional Wolverine storyline, then you had that convoluted villain storyline, double villain storyline on top of that, and I just don't feel like they wrapped it up very well at the end. So, like I said, I just don't think the plot flowed very well in this movie.
I understand, and my first con is the plot is a little messy. I mean, I have my issues with it. I'm able to overlook a lot of those issues just because the overall funness of this movie and enjoyable factor this movie had. Yes, it was messy, though, I am willing to admit. Yes, a lot of the disconnects that it had, a lot of the stuff that it thrown, it was another multiverse plot that had a little bit of issues when it comes to explaining everything. I feel like a lot of what happened in this movie was preventable, but also I'm glad it wasn't just because of how entertaining it was, which I feel like if they would have added a little bit more stakes, like if I personally, if I was to change the plot, I've already kind of explained how I would have eliminated Paradox completely from this movie and focused more on Cassandra Nova and the Void in itself. And I would have actually completely destroyed the original Fox universe.
Yeah.
And brought
had
Deadpool.
Cassandra like wipe them out.
I would have.
Yeah.
I would have had it completely eliminated, and I would have had Deadpool brought permanently over into Earth 616 for the MCU. I think that would have been much more of a better idea and plot instead of keeping it around. Yeah. Because there's no purpose of it. This was supposed to be a send off. So, I mean, maybe not necessarily killing it, but giving it the send off it needs, it kind of left room for more, which I think it shouldn't have. Yeah. It should have ended it right there, but we still want room for more from Deadpool, but we don't room for more from the universe. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I'm with you.
So I think that would have been it. So it was messy in a lot of that capacity. It had some issues when it comes to that. I feel like a lot of it was rushed. Which
it felt rushed.
They need to stop with the rushing,
especially that third act.
It was.
They're trying to tie up all these.
It was a rushed third act, and there's just a lot of loose ends that they need to tie. And I feel like Marvel's issue post Endgame has been third acts and rushing. Is they've been trying so hard to get these movies out when in reality, if you need to take your time, please take your time. We will wait.
Especially because this one took 6 years.
Right.
Right.
We will wait. I mean, it took how many years to make Endgame, and look how it turned out. Yeah. And instead of rushing it, take your time, because clearly you're wanting to make money, and we get it. But you'll make more money in the long run if you take your time.
If it's really, really good.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my first con.
My next con is the cinematography. I'm not a fan of all these close-ups. It feels like every shot we get of Deadpool or Wolverine or these other characters, it's just all close-ups. And it really started taking me out the second time I watched it. I'm like, it just didn't feel good to watch. I'm just staring at someone's face the entire time. Like, zoom out a little bit or give me a different shot. I was looking through the cinematographer's filmography on the Letterboxd, and he didn't have too many good movies, so I guess it's not a surprise. And the fight scenes to me felt a little campy. Specifically the fight scene where they're fighting in front of Cassandra's lair. Like you have all these good guys and bad guys, and then they wait, and then they rush together. I didn't feel like the cinematography was very good for that scene, but just too many close-ups I wasn't a fan of.
Okay. I disagree. I actually like the close-ups because I think it fits Deadpool's character. I feel like because the zooming in close-ups, breaking the fourth wall, this, that, or the other. I mean, it just fits him in his character. I mean, I can get you saying it can take you out in some certain scenes, but I think overall it was not necessarily a con for me anyway. I mean, it's everybody's opinion.
See, I'm not talking about I think the fourth wall stuff was fine. I love that. But like when he be talking to another character, be like right on his face, and then switch over to another character's face. Yeah, like, bro, zoom out, give me a different shot. I don't have a problem
with that, but
I thought it felt campy.
Okay, I get it. But campy's not necessarily a bad adjective. But I mean, I don't know. Well, I get what you're saying, but I would say I think it was interesting. It didn't take me out necessarily. But that's just me. All right, but my next con is the villains aren't consistent. Yeah. I think Cassandra Nova's good, but she changes motives, like we talked about, very quickly. Yeah. And I get the reasoning of her changing motives because she got mad after what Pyro did and finding out what ultimately what Paradox had done. But I feel like that whole subplot could have been eliminated completely.
It didn't feel well written.
Right. And it wasn't consistent to where it was such a flip in Cassandra Nova's character. And then also Paradox's character just wasn't consistent at all by any means. I mean, they never really gave Paradox's motives. Like, why did he want to do this? Why did he want to eliminate this? I mean, yeah, they say he wanted to be the TVA, but why did he want to be the TVA? Give me some backstory.
He just wanted power?
Exactly. Why did he want power? That's what I want to know.
Cassandra just wants power too. So
that was just very inconsistent, and I did not like that when it comes to the movie itself.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I also had that one, just, brief recapping on it. Like you said, just a change in motives, like, it just kind of made me mad, Like, we see, like, at any point in time, she could have gone into any universe and probably taken it over, right? She's a mega level mutant. Like, she's one of the most powerful characters we've seen. But instead, she's content to empty the trash can in the void. Like, that doesn't make sense with her character, and especially later after the whole thing with what's his face, Power Maniac, and then Paradox. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna destroy every timeline.
Right.
It feels so
inconsistent.
It's inconsistent. Yeah. It's bad writing, and it's just weak.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't like that. I think a big con for me was the pacing. I thought the first act was the best. I thought it worked really well. The opening scene, the interview with Happy, the TVA exposition, him going around trying to find Wolverine. I thought that all worked really well. First off, getting into the void, I think it worked very well. Get into that second act, it starts to slow down. You get a ton of dialogue. You start to, what happened with Wolverine? I feel like that feels a little bit campy. And I think the beginning of the third act feels really slow too, kind of until the people pick him up in the minivan and take him away. Then it speeds up really quick at the end. But that middle of the movie just feels like kind of stagnant a little bit to me.
Okay. My final con is just the overall disconnectedness of the plots. I mean, you have like almost 3 different plots running at the same time, to where it would have benefited just to run on one. And I already kind of mentioned that when the plot is a little messy, but just talk about, I mean, there was one plot of, Deadpool wanting to save his universe and going in, as a result, trying to find the Wolverines and then end up in the void to try to get in the void. Loved that. That was great. Yeah. Second plot was Cassandra Nova wanting to get out of the void to destroy the entire world except the void. That could have been snipped and eliminated.
Yeah.
Third plot was the whole Paradox thing of wanting to completely eliminate Earth with really unclear motives and all that. That also could have been eliminated. Yeah. If they would have had just one room focus on one particular plot and added a little bit more stakes, like personally, I would have killed some characters off.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yes, they did kill off Johnny, and they killed off
a cameo.
But he was just a cameo, right? If they would have killed off someone like Electra, Blade, Gambit, or X-23, that would have made a little bit more sense because they had they were actually involved in the movie.
I know.
That would have made some sense. Like, I would have maybe killed off Blade or something, add a little bit of emotional depth, and then the end, I don't know if I necessarily kill Wolverine again, but kill somebody else, kill something that we could see. I just think, adding some stakes would have benefited to this movie, and just focusing on one plot would have been beneficial.
I'm totally with you, especially on the end fight scene. The end fight scene, and then the fight scene where Cassandra's just sitting in the chair, like drinking tea or something.
Yeah.
Talking about stakes, like you have this show off with these X-Men villains and with these X-Men heroes, and the most powerful character just sitting there doing nothing. Like it doesn't add up.
I would have made that fight scene a lot longer. I would have had them, like Deadpool, Wolverine, both coming at her from both sides.
Well, I would have removed her completely, because the whole time I'm thinking like she could snap her fingers and everyone here would die.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Right.
So that just feels weird that there's this whole battle breaking out, and she's just like,
right.
I'm so powerful, I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, your job is to clean up the trash, and you're letting all this stuff happen, like, right in your house. It's just dumb. I really think that's dumb.
Okay.
But with it, I don't know. I was kind of pissed off by the end fight scene, to be honest. They say show, don't tell. They tell us that she's so powerful. They had to put her when she was like a baby in the void, and then she finally gets out to the earth. And what's the first thing she do? She sticks her hand into machine for about 5 minutes. And it just kind of reminded me of like 11 from Stranger Things. Just like putting her hands out and just like screaming. You know, I mean, ideally, I would have loved to see like a high stakes battle with her and the X-Men, like you said, and Deadpool Wolverine, see her kill a bunch of people. That would have been great. You know, I was thinking low-key what was going to happen would be like a Wolverine Jean Grey kind of thing. Yeah. Like everyone else dies maybe except like the guy who can't. Right. You know, like that would have been cool.
It's been done, but
you know,
it still
exactly.
Cool.
It's been done, but a lot of stuff in this movie have been done too.
It would have been
so there's a lot of fan service and cameos. I don't see why they couldn't have done something like that. Sure. But rather like they just put her in a box and they give her nothing to do. Yeah. You know, like, I feel bad for Emma really. Like put your hands in here and scream and you're gonna destroy every universe. Sure. Like, yes, it's really cool to see Deadpool and Wolverine like try to nobly sacrifice themselves. That scene was awesome, by the way. And seeing them come together was cool, but substituting that, you know, for what
could have been.
Yeah, you know, I think we could have also seen noble sacrifices if you fought this Omega level mutant. So I was definitely disappointed by that. And I had two more. I definitely thought the comedy was a pro, but I feel like they just kept on hammering like the same sex joke, like just over and over. And after a while, after like the fifth or sixth time, like I just kind of became numb. Like not saying it wasn't funny. And I know it's Deadpool and his whole thing is like just, you know, being funny.
That's just what he is.
Yeah, but I just feel like it was the same thing over like halfway through the movie. I'm like, all right, I know exactly what he's about to say. I'm the first time watching it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. And then my last con was Jennifer Garner. No, she really did take me out. I can't lie. Maybe she's lost it. I don't know. But yeah, that's what
all right. So from them cons, I mean, naturally we're critical and things of that nature. But just to add on, that doesn't mean that I personally didn't enjoy this movie. I really did. I love this movie. We'll get to that when we give our rating out of 10. Yeah. But this had such like the van scene was awesome. Then fighting
the van scene was cool.
That was so awesome.
It's creative, right?
Yeah, it was creative. The music in the background was cool. The fight scene with the 20th Century Fox logo in the background was also cool. Awesome. Both Deadpool Wolverine's fight scenes were just great. A lot of the other stuff, personally, I really enjoyed the comedy a lot. I think it fit well, like I had in my pro. It had a lot going for it. So now it's time to rate it out of 10. So you want to go first? You want me to go
first? I'm going to go first because I know I'm a lower. Okay. When I first saw it, I was excited, but as I was driving home, I'm like, there's just stuff I can't overlook. If no matter how good like your performances are and the cameos are, like if there's not like just a grounded like plot that makes sense and flows well, like I can't give it a super high score if it's just messy. And to be honest, out of the trilogy, I think objectively it's probably the worst. I think it had some of the best action. I think it had some of the best comedy. But as far as like just like the plot and the storyline goes, the pacing, I just think it didn't flow as well as the other two. I think the first one's the best, then the second one, then the third one, probably in that order. I'm gonna end on a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's good.
Yeah, right. But that's a fair rating. I agree with.
There's a lot going against
a lot of your points. I wouldn't say Deadpool 3 is the worst. I would say it's probably the weakest. Okay, that's how I would phrase it. I would say yes, it's probably the weakest. But if I'm honest, I had more fun watching the third one than I did 1 and 2.
No, and I agree with that too.
I had more fun watching 2 than I did 1. Yeah. I think 1 is the least entertaining, but the best plot. Yeah, is how I kind of view it.
No, you're right. I'm with you on that.
And for Deadpool and Wolverine, I had such a fun time, and the entertaining value of this movie just lifts me so much more because I had such a good time watching it both times, and it's just such a fun and entertaining movie that even though a lot of the plot details lack and there's just a lot of inconsistencies, it was just a good movie that I could watch again and again and again.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. Exactly. Had a lot of that going for it. So that brings me, I'm between two numbers. The first time I would have gave it boom right this first number. The second time after reconsidering and thinking it, I've kind of come down a little bit. So I'm going to settle at a 7.5 out of 10. I thought about giving it an 8. The first watch, I was like, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. But adding in the inconsistencies and the plot details, I'll bring it a 7.5. Not to say that it could be an 8 out of 10 over time. It can't go higher than an 8 out of 10, though, for me at all. It can't go any higher than that. But 7.5, I feel like it's right in the middle. It's a 7.5 is still a really good score. Yeah. It's still a good movie. Still has a lot going for it. But some of the inconsistencies kind of brings it down a little bit. So I'm going to settle at 7.5.
I'm with you. And when I first watched the movie, a friend of mine was in the theater I didn't know, and he comes down. He's like, "Dude, that was better than Guardians of the Galaxy." I said,
"Which one?"
No, I asked him. I said, "You talking about the third one?" He's like, "Dude, like all of them." I said, "All right,
whoa.
Come on out,
recency bias. Recency bias.
You know, like give
it's
James
better
Gunn
than
his
the
props.
second Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes,
for sure.
I would agree. But man, yeah, but overall, a good movie, a really fun watch. Don't take your kids.
No, don't take your kids.
Obviously, I wonder if there's gonna be another one. I'm probably not. Maybe, hopefully.
I hope so. I hope.
I mean,
the Jimmy Fallon interviewed Ryan Reynolds like, "So are we doing Deadpool 4?" And he's like, "Oh, I hope not." And it's like instant.
Yeah.
But even because of the fact it was so instant, makes me think, okay, we might do it again.
Yeah.
But I hope he does because I got to see him in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
I got to see him in that capacity, and he's still young. He's still got time.
He's young. He fits, and he's always wearing a mask too, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
And plus, we need more Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
Deadpool.
We need
Let's be
more
honest.
Matthew McConaughey
more
as Cowboy
Pool.
Pool and Blake Lively as Lady Pool.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Why
and
not?
Nathan Fillion as Head Pool also are great.
That's funny.
Also are great.
Oh man, yeah. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for listening to this episode. And as always, if you liked it, please let us know by giving us a download and a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. We have a new feature on our episodes where you can send us a text message by following the link at the bottom of our episodes. You can submit your questions for Heroes Q&A there, or just shoot us a DM on Instagram. Also, if you want exclusive access to episodes, including additional movie reviews outside of our general purview and early access to all of our episodes, you can subscribe to our membership, Heroes HQ. And then finally, feel free to also check out our YouTube channel and Instagram at Heroes in the Moment.
And we just want to thank you all so much for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.